Hello and welcome to the Craft Beer Corner. For today's beer review, we're jumping into another new brewer to me. Today we're visiting Mountain Walking Brewery. They're based in Bozeman, Montana. And this specific beer is called Sweets, though they have a lot of different beers with the same name. It's got different additives. It is a sour ale that clocks in at 6% ABV. This specific version of Sweets has included black currants, cheesecake, and lactose. So I'm expecting this to be a flavored sour ale at its base with a little lactose to let the added ingredients actually taste as they should. So first beer from Mountain Walking Brewery. They did mention on the can it's brewed in collaboration with Wild Crumb Bakery, who I have to presume is a local baker that is supplying them with their added ingredients. But nonetheless, label art on this, very cool looking. I'm not sure the best way to describe it. It had a little sticker on there. I'm trying to clear that off. But it's kind of funky looking, very brightly colored, kind of foil looking, maybe a multicolored kind of sky scene over the mountains. But it's very, very cool looking. Beer sounds awesome. I've had quite a few different variations of cheesecake in different beer styles. If done right, it is awesome, and this one sounds really, really nice. Black currants, cheesecake, and lactose in a sour ale base. So, let's get this cracked. We're going to pour this in our nice all-purpose glass here. All right. Oh, wow. That is a lovely beer. Yeah, black currants do tend to impart a color that is a lot like raspberries in beer. They have dark purplish red color to them, and there's a lot of pigment in that skin. So we're not quite going to get the whole thing in there. I could, but I'm not quite going to. So let me just give that a little bit of a wipe down. I can tell you it has a very pronounced aroma even from here, and it does smell actually quite strongly of cheesecake. So visually, yeah, you're not seeing through this beer. It's very, very dark. It's a big, deep reddish purple. I mean, just stunningly beautiful in the glass. It does look a lot like the color of framboise, which is one of the most visually stunning beer styles for my money. It looks fantastic. Yes, it is a sour. It formed a little bit of a head here. It's got that lactose in there. I'm not surprised by that, so it should more or less settle out of the way here. But let's get right up over it for a proper sniff. Okay, yeah. So cheesecake definitely jumps out of this glass at me, as does the black currant, and it's definitely got a nice tart punch to it. So there's a little bit of some underlying funkiness, so I'm guessing that they didn't add kind of a citric acid, lactic acid approach, anything like that. I'm guessing it's probably actual Brettanomyces, but it's got this nice sharpness to it on the souring, and very clearly you can smell the black currants, and very clearly you can smell the cheesecake. It is a very pronounced aroma on this beer. Much more pronounced than your average sour, to be certain. As expected, head is basically settled out of the way. It's just got a light little film of creaminess floating on top. But we're going to jump right in, see what this one's about. Oh, wow. Oh, that is so good. This is another one of those that's got cheesecake in it that's done right. Okay, so this is a decadent beer. It's sweet and rich at the same time. It's got this sour and tart tang to it up front. It really, really tastes good and an excellent balance on this beer. So let's talk texture. The first thing I'd tell you, it's a sour, it's 6%. It's not a super heavy beer. It feels more or less medium, which is what I would expect for a sour in this ABV range. Lactose added or otherwise. It feels right. Mouthfeel, similar story. It's maybe a little bit more resistant than you would experience on your typical sour ale, but again, it's got that lactose addition, so it does feel exactly where I expected. Body and mouthfeel feel exactly right. It feels fantastic. So, flavor profile. When you swallow, the first thing you get is immediacy of the sour and the tart. It's not astringent. It's just got a nice kick to it. You can tell it's supposed to be sour and tart, and then it backs down a little bit pretty quickly. What hits you immediately in tandem with the sour and the tart up front is indeed that black currant, and it's fantastic. It does have elements that do remind me of a mix of different dark berries, and it has a similar aroma as well. So if you're unfamiliar with black currants, they are a fruit, and they do put off this vibe of kind of a mix of different berries. I would say raspberry, blackberry, elderberry, blueberry. Almost if you took all of the commonly found berries you could find in a grocery store and put them all together, that kind of approximates what a currant tastes like. It's kind of, it's its own thing, but it tastes like a mix of different other berries that you have certainly had prior. Absolutely delicious. The cheesecake in this, the lactose addition, does its job. It's not a sweet beer, but it's letting the black currant come through and taste like it should, and it's really critical with the beer with cheesecake in it. And it does truly taste like cheesecake. It tastes like there is actual physical cheesecake with the crust and the whole 9 yards in this beer mixed with it, which is what they did. But sometimes cheesecake beers, it can get a little lost and muddled in there. This one is executed absolutely flawlessly. Unbelievably good beer. So, what a treat. What a first great jump in to a new brewer. This one's absolutely fantastic. It's stunningly beautiful. It is delicious, absolutely delicious. I'm going to jump back in for a second sip, let everything re-intensify, see if I missed anything, and then we're going to talk about the finish. But unbelievably good beer. Take two. Nice sour tart up front, black currant immediately. Takes just a couple seconds, and then the cheesecake really becomes very clear. And it does taste distinctly like cheesecake. You get that cheesecakey cream cheese vibe, and then the graham crust starts to come into play as well. And it's all just mixing with the sour tart and black currant. And once all of the flavors arrive clearly on your palate, which takes about 4 or 5 seconds, they all just kind of hold at equilibrium. There's nothing in here fighting for attention. It's staggered how the flavors present themselves, kind of one after the next, and then they're all there and they all just hold on an even playing field. And it's interesting because you get this almost kind of classic fruited sour kind of vibe up front, and then this richness from this cheesecake kind of just comes out of nowhere, and it completely changes the dynamic of the beer. Still absolutely fantastic. On second sip, it just let everything re-intensify. Though this is not a beer that's super duper viscous, so it doesn't really coat and linger all around the palate like other beer styles, but it's very, very nice. It's very flavorful, and I gotta reiterate again, the balance on this, absolutely top tier. Phenomenal beer. So the finish. The finish on this is not particularly long. Yes, it's a sour, and yes, it's got these big, bold flavors, but like I said, it's not super viscous. It's not really coating and lingering all over the palate. That said, what you do get on the back end is just a little bit of that residual black currant and a little bit of that underlying cheesecake. And that's where it finishes off, and it tapers off. I don't know, it takes maybe 20 seconds. So I guess I'd say average, I guess, for the style. It's probably about right, but there's no big, bold, haunting, lingering flavors. The other thing about this, very common with sour beers, that you will get a little bit of a dryness on the palate. This one does not do that at all. It's very wet and very round all the way to the end. Absolutely delicious beer. It's stunningly beautiful, and it tastes just as good as it looks. What a wonderful first beer from a new brewer to me. I absolutely love this one. I'm going to take my time, sip on this, come with my scores. When we come back, we'll get this one ranked from top to bottom. All right, now that we've gotten to enjoy this beer, we're going to get it ranked. This was Mountain Walking Brewery's Sweets. This specifically was the black currants and cheesecake version, and 6% ABV on this. It is a sour ale, and they also added lactose to let those added ingredients speak. Mountain Walking Brewery is based in Bozeman, Montana. So starting with the aroma. This was one of those classic sour ales. The sour and the tart pungency really did jump right out on the aroma. It was quite pronounced, and you could really smell the black currants and the cheesecake. It really smelled exactly like the base beer style plus the additives. Had real presence, smelled absolutely fantastic. Aroma gets a 10 out of 10. For the taste, I really enjoyed this one. Had a nice sour and tart kick up front, but it wasn't super intense and didn't really sting and linger on the palate. Just gave you enough to let you know, yes, the base beer style here is a sour, but really the story of this beer is about the flavor combination they made with those added ingredients. The black currants have a naturally kind of tart effect, and that played into the base beer style as well. Very pronounced on the flavor profile, but as was the cheesecake. The cheesecake was really what took this beer and twisted it in a completely different direction, because it added this layer of richness, of decadence to this otherwise, more tart and punchy in your face beer style. And sure, it still was very true to the style of sour ale. It's just the combination of ingredients, how they blended together, made for a very different drinking experience for this beer style. So really, that cheesecake coming through, and it tasted exactly like cheesecake. Not kind of, sort of. I mean, it tasted exactly like it. If you had black currant cheesecake, that's what this was in sour ale form. Absolutely fantastic taste. Gets a 10 out of 10. For the body, this was exactly as expected. For the style in the ABV range, the body gets a 10 out of 10. Mouthfeel, same story here. The expected amount of resistance. Mouthfeel gets a 10 out of 10. For the finish. Finish on this one was not as long as I expected, considering the overall boldness and pungency of the flavors here. Now, some sours can be quite long on the finish, some sours can be shorter. This one was really just average. Finish gets a 5 out of 10. For the head and retention, this one started to form a head a little bit at the beginning, but it got out of the way very quickly. Head and retention gets a 9 out of 10. For the appearance. Appearance on this beer was absolutely fantastic. A nice bright reddish purple, absolutely lovely to look at in the glass. Appearance gets a 10 out of 10. For the balance on this beer was top notch. The right amount of souring and tartness for the base beer style, and then the balance of the black currants and the cheesecake, and almost more specifically the lactose, was absolutely perfect. Enough lactose in there to let the black currants taste like they should and the cheesecake taste like it should without sweetening the beer. That is absolutely nailed it. Balance gets a 10 out of 10. Filling in the intangible. Subjectively, I love this one. This was a very well done flavored sour ale, and I absolutely loved it. 10 out of 10. Finally is an example of the style. Well, this beer got perfect 10 out of 10 in almost all categories. Really just the finish. It's a sour ale. You never know what you're going to get. And you just 1 point in head and retention, but neither of which really impact this beer on the grand scale. So I did think that it deserved top marks here. Example of the style, 10 out of 10. Which brings the total score on Mountain Walking Brewery's Sweets to a 94 out of 100. So if you're a fan of sour ales, flavored sour ales, this is one I would definitely recommend. Had a nice kick of sour and tart up front. The black currant really plays very well naturally as the fruit into this beer style. Then that added bonus was the cheesecake and the right amount of lactose. It was absolutely fantastic. I think this beer was aptly named, and I think they did an absolutely tremendous job with this one. I do highly recommend this to any sour beer fans. Folks, that's today's review. As always, I do sincerely appreciate you tuning in today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to stay in the loop when our videos go live, just turn on your notifications, hit that bell icon. It's right next to the subscribe button. Until next time, keep it beer, keep it craft. We'll see you on the next one. Cheers.